Sales, sales are going down the hill. Sales, sales.
At some point in our lives, we've all bemoaned our creative efforts or lack thereof. We wonder how people can dream up such brilliant ideas and create such fantastical characters, stories, or products. We are blown away by the solution to a problem, not because of the solution's complexity, but because the solution answers the problem and then builds upon it in a way we never thought it could. It's something we all wish we had, and yet when we try our own creative efforts, they're often disjointed, overcomplicated, or in the worst case, disappointing. A lot of people, myself included, end up thinking creativity is a gift given to a select few, or perhaps something one must be born with. Well, that is certainly not the case when it comes to creativity or thinking creatively. In fact, there is actually a process through which anyone can boost their creative genius. And that, my friends, is the subject of today's video. Today, we are going to learn about the process of ideation.
Now, where to begin? First off, I think we should define creativity, or what it means to be creative. The word creative is defined as resulting from originality of thought, expression, etc., with an emphasis on the last word, imaginative. Simply put, it means that to be creative is to come up with original and new ideas. And to that you say, yes, Kevin, that is exactly the issue. How do I come up with ideas that are new and original? Well, you're not the only one who has had this question, and in fact, there are many universities and companies who have asked themselves this question and come up with several courses to teach their students or their staff to be creative. Some such companies include IBM, some such universities include UAB and Stanford. They all teach this process called design thinking. Design thinking, as defined by Stanford, is a methodology for creative problem solving. What it means is that anyone can teach themselves to be creative through this process, and all it takes is 4 simple steps. Think of it as a giant puzzle where you can build an outline, and from that outline, you can then come up with tons of creative and innovative ideas and solutions to many different problems. And to jump right into it, our first step is Part 1 is identifying our problem. What is wrong? Why isn't something getting done? What might need to get done? This can apply to any corporate or personal need. And what I mean by problem is not, oh, there's a leaky faucet upstairs that needs to get fixed, but rather, what is the thing that we're trying to accomplish? We need to boost sales the next quarter. I want to write a fantasy novel. How do we make this garage look more attractive? How do I engage my subscribers better? These are all problems that people face in their day-to-day lives, and through ideation, we can solve them. This is an incredibly important step and something the rest of the process will hinge upon. If you do not understand what your problem is, you won't be able to solve it effectively. As John Dewey says, a problem well put is already half solved. After we have effectively identified what exactly our problem is, we can then move on to the next step, which is Step 2 is data collection, and it is exactly what it sounds like. We collect data. We want to go out, we want to ask our consumers or our users and find out why it is they think a certain way, or what are some of the needs that they have that must be addressed. Data collection can be done in a myriad of different ways. However, I would suggest 3 ways. You do written notes, you do recorded interviews, or you go and take analytics from social media, or if you're a large corporation, from your marketing department, and then use those to develop questions based around the problems or needs that you think need to be solved. The questions should be a mix of open-ended and closed-ended questions. An open-ended question is generally one in which the person who is responding can expound upon their response and give why they are thinking a certain way. A closed-ended question is merely a yes or no answer. An example of an open-ended question would be, why do you like bright colors? An example of a closed-ended question would be, is tailgating important to you? As a general rule, questions beginning with what, why, or how are generally characterized as open-ended questions, and questions beginning with is, are, or would are generally characterized as closed-ended questions because they ask the person to answer in a simple one-word response. Empathy is incredibly important in this piece and overall throughout this process. You have to put yourself in your users or consumers' shoes and try to see what is it that they, not you, want to see, or what they, not you, need. It is also incredibly important if you are doing this for yourself, say you're doing it for your house, you need to take a step back and say, okay, what is it that I really want to see? And you have to make sure you understand what the end user wants. Then, after you have done that, you can move on to step 3, which is
Step 3 is placing all of our users into personas or types. What this does is it gives us a more detailed look at who our end user actually is. What a persona is simply all of the consumers that have similar attributes placed together into one group with a specific name that lets us know who exactly they are, what they need, and what they might want to see. When it comes to personas or types, you can have as many or as few as you see fit depending on the size of the project you're working on. Say you're working for a large multi-million-dollar corporation, then you may need to have 4 to 7 different personas because that might be how big your consumer base is and how diverse your consumers are. Or say you're simply a YouTuber or an Instagrammer, then you may only need 2 to 3 different personas because all your subscribers or followers can be separated into those 2 groups. Detail is incredibly important here. An example of a good persona is something like this, Fancy Frank. Frank is someone who's incredibly cognizant about what he looks like and how he looks. Frank follows the latest fashions on social media and only the latest fashions. Frank is someone who, if the product or service does not look aesthetically pleasing, probably won't use it or want to buy it. And finally, Frank's social circle is one of wealth, status, and prestige. This stage is incredibly important and something that you need to take carefully and make sure you add detail, because if you have very detailed personas, it will allow you to more accurately move on to the next step, which is step 4 is how might we statements. This is exactly what it sounds like. There are statements that begin with the 3 words, how might we. From these 3 words, we are able to develop statements or questions as to how might we bring about what our consumer wants to see and how might we make it come to life. A real quick project that you can do, or a real quick exercise you can do right now while watching this video, is incredibly simple. After I give you this statement, pause the video, and in the comments down below, I want you to answer this question. How might we make watching paint dry interesting? Just take a minute in the comments below, think of maybe a creative way that how might we be able to make the process of watching paint dry, how might be able to make that interesting? Now I posed this question to several people without any prompting other than the how might we statement. Here are some of the things that they came up with. Peter said, use hidden images in the paint that slowly reveal as the paint dries. Matthew said, make the paint be drying on something interesting. William said, have a magnifying glass that allows you to see the paint is physically hardening. Sharon said, serve the watchers alcohol. As you can see, even such a simple how might we statement has the potential and the power to bring about something that is incredibly boring and mundane and turn it into something that is possibly interesting. Part 5 is generating ideas, and it's as simple as that. We take our how might we statements we developed in step 4 and simply answer them to the best of our abilities. In the beginning, don't be afraid if the ideas you come up with are not physically possible, logically sound, or even logistically applicable. Simply take the ideas and put them out on pen and paper. As you can see, I'm out on a roof right here. This was from a how might we statement of how do I make this YouTube video interesting? Obviously, it might be a bit flawed because I did not take into account that there would be wind and other noises, but that's all it is. You simply take the ideas that come to you and see if they work. If they don't, all right, that's fine. You at least had the idea. If they do, great, you've created something new and were able to do something that answered your how might we statement. There's an incredibly important piece that I will say right after I get off this roof, and that is, now that we're off the roof, I can tell you that how many and how detailed the ideas that you come up with are depends only on your willingness to fail early, and fail often. We have to accept that not all the ideas that we come up with are going to be awesome and excellent, and that's okay. It's part of the process. As Albert Einstein said, anyone who has never made a mistake has never tried something new. And that's exactly what we want, new and original ideas. If an idea doesn't work, that's fine, we simply move on to the next one. If we create a myriad of ideas and not a single one comes off the cutting room floor, that's all right. We simply keep going back and refining and continuing to refine our process until we can generate that really good idea. If we continually do this, continually go back and refine and think about and go back and refine, the ideas and things that we're coming up with, eventually we will be sitting there with the next Harry Potter novel in our hand, or we'll be the next CEO of Apple. It's simply a matter of time and following the process. In conclusion, we see that creativity is not just a gift given to a select few, it is in fact something that can be taught, learned, and refined. Well guys, I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you have taken away some of these tips and tricks for refining your own creative process. As always, if you have any tips or tricks, please leave them in the comments down below, and I will see y'all next time. Oh, here we go. Types. Oh. Hello, today is Apple.
So sir, in this interview today,
for honor and glory, for fame and for...
okay, no, that